Indian companies are scrambling to offset the pain from steep new U.S. tariffs. Exporters are racing to Africa in search of a tariff haven after Washington slapped a 50% duty on some Indian goods earlier this week. Now, for more, Bloomberg's Ondiro Oganga joins us now from Kigali, Rwanda. Ondiro, yesterday we were talking about China seeing the opportunity and sizing up the opportunity in the African continent. Now, India as well looking for new markets.
Absolutely, Jumana, and you just mentioned in the intro, 50% tariff is very steep. It's too much of an excruciating loss to absorb on the Indian businesses side, but also it's too high of a margin to impose on prices. It will hurt the end consumers and demand is going to tank. As a result, Indian companies are looking for alternative markets where they can produce their goods in an affordable way and they can make it to the U.S. markets with tariffs not necessarily adding a huge chunk to the price, so eating up their margins. So that's why we're seeing them looking to Africa. And most importantly, U.S. is one of their important export markets. In 2023, exports of textile, jewelry, and diamond, $20 billion. And with these tariffs, 90% of demand in certain goods and exports is likely to decrease. And that's why Africa is now emerging as that sweet spot, tariffs of at least 10%. And that's why they're saying they can do business here. You have companies that work in April that are looking to expand operations in Kenya and Ethiopia, and those that deal with gem diamonds are looking to expand operations in Botswana. And Africa is taking advantage of this opportunity. There are certain African countries, Nigeria, Morocco, Ethiopia, that have a conducive environment in terms of policy, tax incentives, and also just having affordable labor. But one thing Indian companies will have to contend with is they'll have to renegotiate terms of doing business if they choose to relocate big businesses. And also perception. Countries like Ethiopia, there's risk of conflict, and that's something that they'll have to work with their end consumers.
Yeah, so obviously it varies country by country. But as we speak, there was an India-Africa trade conference taking place this week. What were some of the takeaways?
Jumana, one of the highlights is that trade between India and Africa crossed the 100 billion mark, and this is really significant because it has almost doubled in comparison to the COVID period. And if you look at the last 5 years, it has increased by about 78%, which is really, really monumental. You also have India increasing lending to the African continent, $12 billion in terms of concessional loans, $700 million in terms of grants, and they're almost trying to get into that big boys circle, trying to flex their muscle against the US, UK, EU and China. But then again, they have a long way to go to be able to come into Africa and fully establish yourself. You need to announce yourself. China has done that through the Belt and Road Initiative. US is doing that through minerals and security deal. So India will have to push the envelope a little bit further to solidify their place on the continent.